Well, here we are, which we found very surprisingly. In my testimony I talked about Canon Denning, and here we have the cremation plaque, which reads William P. Denning, priest, 1907 to 1980, pastor of St. John the Baptist, Purley, 1944 to 1980, with a simple request, may he rest in peace. I was very surprised to find this, because I was looking for some other members up here, family members, but we found Canon Denning. My mother always felt, as I said at the time, that he should have been the Bishop of Southwark. And here he is. He was cremated, very interestingly. Of course, cremation isn't biblical. Burial is. But we thought you'd like to see this as part of the testimony. Interesting, the word pastor, an American word, and not priest. They've put that under his name. Continuing our tour through Croydon, we come to Purley. And if James would like to film the name of the road, I'll tell you a little bit about why this road is important to me. Dale Road, Purley. And if we just go up a little bit, if you just go up there, the first road on the right was where I lived. We'd come back from Germany, it was 1947, 48, we lived down there. This was my parish church, John the Baptist, and for about 4 or 5 years we lived here. I remember very well walking down this road most mornings, and if James can pan over to the left, you'll see a concrete car park. But of course, when I came here, there were apple orchards here. There was a stream that used to run through here. It was very thick vegetation. And I'm told that when the first priest came here, they did not live on the house on the hill, but they lived in this little house here. And I'll just point over to it, coming over to it now, on the church. The church was built about the 30s, if we just go up here and stop. This was where the priests lived at the time, before they moved up on the hill. But we're going towards the church now, built around about the 1930s, played a big part in my life as a young man. I used to come here every morning and serve Mass. And you can see as we walk in toward the church, usual sort of thing like most Catholic churches, times of Mass and so forth. Little plaque here when the bishop came down, and I'd like to tell you a bit more about that house up there. Well, here it is here. The church was built... can we see a date here? Well, it was built, it was opened by Archbishop Amigo, and here we are, 1938. The stone was laid here by Archbishop Amigo. He was the Bishop of Southwark in those days. Now, my job was to walk round. All this was new at the time, and this was the church. Now, right behind me, perhaps if you can show, that was where the priests live. I used to call this the house on the hill, just panning across here. This wasn't here in my day at all. All this was orchard. But you can see that house on the hill. It's a big detached house, and I always thought of Norman Bates's hotel. But I'd walk past the church. That was the entrance to the church. I sometimes had a key. I was about 8 or 9, and I would walk up that path, which I'm not going to walk up now. I'm going to stay in the public road. And I would walk up the road, just up here, because if there was thick snow, and I'd come up on my own. I was about 8 years old, and I'd come up here most mornings, walk up here to serve Mass. And in this house here lived about 3 or 4 priests. And the thing was that I never knew which priest was going to say the Mass. I should also say that the Mass was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I would walk up here, and that's the house there. Big old detached house, and I would walk up to the front door, and I would knock on the door, ring the bell, and I would look up at the windows above, because whatever priest was going to say Mass would open the window out and say, "Morning, Pat, I'll be down in a minute," or they wouldn't if they'd overslept. And he'd either throw the key down to me, and I would walk down this path here to open that door to get into the presbytery to begin serving Mass at 6 o'clock. The house on the hill, I remember it very, very well. And I served Mass here for about 3 or 4 years. So I got to know the priests very well, especially Canon Denning, of course. And Canon Denning was the parish priest here. My mother thought he was a very nice man. She liked him very much. And the memory I have of Canon Denning was that he used to come to our house probably about once a week. He was a very heavy chain smoker. He used to smoke those heavy Turkish Sobrani cigarettes. My mother always thought that he should have been the Archbishop of Southwark, but it came to somebody else. Somebody else got the job by the name of Cyril Cowdery, and my mother thought William Denning should have got it. Much nicer man, she said. I'm not sure what my father's views of Canning Denning were. Very stern man, but I quite liked him, didn't mind serving Mass, and I'd come here and I'd go in that door there. That was the main entrance. 6 o'clock Mass every morning, and would you believe it, there'd be a little group of people waiting to go into 6 o'clock Mass. And I bet you anything you like, they don't have 6 o'clock Mass here anymore. In fact, I'd say that probably the morning Mass is, yes, there you have it, 10 a.m. Morning Mass at 10. But this is it, John the Baptist. And this is where the church that I used to go to. Walking towards the main door now. And you can see original door, original house where the first priest lived before they bought the house on the hill. And you can see John the Baptist there. I don't think he ever looked like that. He certainly didn't have a halo at the back of his head. But John the Baptist, many memories of coming to this church. Even toyed with the idea of becoming a priest. I remember talking to one of the priests about it. And on the staff then, I can still remember the priest was Canon Denning, Canon Burke, Father Burke and Father Turner. They were three of the priests. They also had a visiting Jesuit priest who used to come here by the name of Paul Brassel, S.J. I got to know him later on. He actually lost a fountain pen, and I found it, and it had his initials on the side, S.J., and I went into the Who's Who, found out where he was. He was on Stonyhurst, which was the Jesuit college then. And I sent it back to him, and he sent me £5. A lot of money in those days. But he used to come here quite regularly. But those are the priests. So James can just pan up to the house on the hill. That's the house I remember very well, walking up to for some 4 years. What was it all for? Absolutely nothing, I suppose, really. I wasn't born again. And in this church I never heard about being born again. I never heard about John 3:3. All I learnt here was liturgy and liturgy and liturgy. Deep liturgy of Vatican II. Well, Vatican II hadn't come then. This is pre-Vatican II. But I remember this church very well. This is the church that I went to for some 15 years. And during my time at the church, I played a very important role. Justice and Peace Deanery Coordinator for the 12 parishes. I was on the reading register for all the masses. I was on the Deanery Pastoral Council, Vice Chairman and Acting Chairman as well. On the Archbishop's Committee for the Liturgy and so forth. But this was the church that I came to for about 12 years. And when I say I came here, I came to Mass at this church on Sundays and probably every day of the week. Sometimes even twice. In about an hour's time, there will be a crowd of people flocking in for the evening Mass. Like me, they'll be going in there, they'll be going through a ritual, which they used to say was timeless, but rather it's a ritual which is very much out of date, because it doesn't have the blessing of the trust that Christ has given to us, the blessing that Christ has given to us, that we must be born again. I look at this church now, and I suppose I see a dinosaur. It's a very old church. It's probably the oldest church in the borough. It stood well, and still a lot of people go here. But I have no inclination to go into this church, to open that door, to see what's inside. In fact, I doubt very much has changed since then. So if you're a Catholic watching this, and you're thinking about what I'm saying that I was taken out of the church by the grace of God. I was a Catholic who was saved. God looked down, and he obviously saw me, and he took me out of this system, took my son out of this system. And you must remember that within our family we had 3 Catholic priests, so it was very much in our system. But here's the church. As I say, it stands here today. I played a very integral part on this church, and I should add, of course, that the history of St. Mary's was a book that I was commissioned to write, and I researched this history of this church. That's over 100 years. That book is still being sold, I was told a few years ago, in that repository, with my name still on it. That's all I'd say about this church. But what I would say about religion, that you need to get out of religion, you need to vacate religion today, and you need to get into a relationship, not with the church, not with a system, not with a cathedral, not with a chapel, but with Christ. Only Christ can save you. Only Christ paid the ultimate part of dying on that cross for you, to take that atonement for your sins and mine. And you know what? We weren't really worth it. I'm not really worth it. But I thank God that he did. And I thank God that he took me out of this system. I knew some very nice people here. They were nice people, but they're unsaved. And I'm sure if they saw me now, they would cross over. I hope I've given you something to think about. I tell this story not with malice, but with forgiveness, and I hope it comes across for you to be saved too, for you to make the step. Start praying today. The Lord is coming back. Keep looking up.